The departure gate announcement echoed through Terminal 5 as I sat clutching our boarding passes to Barcelona, staring at the empty chair where Johnathan had been sitting 47 minutes ago after promising he'd just grab us some coffee. Our 7th wedding anniversary trip was about to board, and my husband had vanished. But what he didn't know was that while he was planning his betrayal, I had already executed mine. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, because what happened at that airport wasn't the beginning of my nightmare. It was the end of his. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 3 weeks earlier, I was living what I thought was the perfect life. Helena Morrison, successful marketing director, married to Johnathan Morrison, the charming investment advisor who'd swept me off my feet 8 years ago. We lived in our dream house in Westchester, drove matching BMWs, and were planning our dream anniversary trip to Spain. The honeymoon we'd never properly had because we'd eloped in a courthouse ceremony during a snowstorm. I remember that morning, 3 weeks ago, so clearly now. I was making Johnathan's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, while he sat at our granite kitchen island, scrolling through his phone with that concentrated expression I'd grown to love. The morning sun streamed through our floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the silver streaks that had started appearing in his dark hair, making him look distinguished rather than older. "Barcelona's going to be perfect, babe," he'd said, not looking up from his screen. 7 years of marriage deserves something special. I'd smiled, flipping the pancakes with practiced ease. "Remember when we talked about seeing the Sagrada Familia during our first date? I can't believe we're actually going." He'd murmured, still focused on his phone. At the time, I'd attributed his distraction to work stress. Johnathan's investment firm had been expanding rapidly, taking on bigger clients, more complex portfolios. He'd been working late more often, taking more business calls, traveling frequently for client meetings. The successful husband supporting our lifestyle while I climbed the corporate ladder at my marketing agency. But looking back now, I can see all the signs I'd missed. Or maybe I hadn't missed them. Maybe I'd simply chosen not to see them. The phone calls that stopped abruptly when I walked into the room. The way he'd started showering immediately after coming home from work, when he used to collapse on the couch first. The new cologne that appeared on his dresser without explanation. The sudden interest in working out, in buying new clothes, in suggestions that I might want to treat myself to a spa weekend or girls' trip. I'd been so focused on planning our perfect anniversary trip that I'd convinced myself these were all signs of a man planning something special for me. Maybe he was working on a surprise, I'd thought. Maybe the secrecy was about anniversary plans. The truth was so much worse. It started with a phone call 2 Thursdays before our trip. I was at work, presenting a campaign to our biggest client, when my phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me step out of the conference room to answer. "Mrs. Morrison, this is Sarah Chen from Premier Credit Services. I'm calling about some unusual activity on your joint account ending in 4757. My blood went cold. "What kind of unusual activity?" "Large. Cash advances, ma'am. 3 in the past week, totaling $47,000. We wanted to verify these were authorized transactions." I'd stood in that sterile office hallway, watching my colleagues through the conference room glass, and felt my world begin to shift. I need to call you back." That night, I did something I'd never done in 7 years of marriage. I went through Johnathan's things while he was in the shower. His wallet, his briefcase, his laptop. What I found changed everything. Hotel receipts from cities where he'd claimed to be in client meetings, but the dates didn't match his calendar. Restaurant bills for 2 at romantic establishments I'd never been to. And worst of all, printed. Boarding passes for weekend trips I knew nothing about, always for 2 passengers, Johnathan Morrison and Megan Walsh. Megan Walsh. I knew that name. She was the new associate at his firm, 28 years old, fresh out of business school. Blonde, ambitious, and apparently, my husband's traveling companion. But the financial documents I found were what really destroyed me. Bank statements, showing transfers I hadn't authorized, investment accounts I didn't know existed, and most devastating of all, a mortgage application for a property in Austin, Texas, with both their names on it. My husband wasn't just having an affair. He was building an entire new life with someone else. That night, as Johnathan slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to confront him immediately, to scream and cry and demand explanations. But a larger part of me, the strategic, analytical, part that had made me successful in marketing, wanted to understand the full scope of what he was doing before I acted. So I spent the next week conducting the most thorough investigation of my life. I hired a private investigator named James Parker, a former police detective who specialized in financial fraud cases. I traced our accounts, our investments, our assets. I discovered credit cards I didn't know about, loans taken out in both, our names, and a systematic plan to liquidate our shared wealth. Johnathan wasn't just cheating on me. He was stealing from me, planning to disappear with Megan and leave me with nothing but debt and devastation. The Barcelona trip, I realized, was meant to be his grand finale, the perfect alibi for his disappearance. He'd probably planned to slip away during the trip, claim some emergency, and never return. By the time I figured out what had happened, he and Megan would be settled in their new life in Austin, and I'd be left holding the bag for his financial crimes. But Johnathan had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me, because while he was planning his great escape, I was planning something much better. I was planning his complete destruction, and it all started with a simple phone call to every credit card company, every bank, every financial institution where Johnathan Morrison had access to funds. By the time I was finished, my cheating husband was about to discover that his perfect plan had one fatal flaw. He'd betrayed the wrong woman. Back to that morning at Terminal 5. I watched Johnathan walk away toward the coffee shop, his expensive leather carry-on slung over his shoulder, his phone already pressed to his ear. He'd been on edge all morning, checking his watch constantly, scanning the departure boards with unusual intensity. At the time, I'd thought he was just excited about our trip. Now I knew better. He was waiting for something, or someone. I gave him 5 minutes before I made my move. Pulling out my phone, I sent a single text message to James Parker. Execute Operation Cleanup. It's time. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with confirmations. Credit cards canceled, bank access frozen, investment accounts locked, emergency financial protection measures activated. 7 years of careful financial planning with Johnathan was being systematically dismantled in real time. The coffee shop was only 50 yards away, but I could see Johnathan clearly through the terminal's glass walls. He was no longer in line. Instead, he stood in a corner, his phone pressed to his ear, his face animated with conversation. Even from this distance, I could see his smile, the same smile that had convinced me to marry him, the same smile he'd apparently been giving to Megan Walsh. My phone rang. Unknown number. Helena? The voice was young, breathless, panicked. This is Megan. Megan Walsh. I think we need to talk. The audacity stunned me into silence. The woman who'd been sleeping with my husband for months was calling me at the airport? I know this is crazy, she continued, her words tumbling out rapidly. But something's wrong. Really wrong. Johnathan told me you knew about us, that you'd agreed to let him go. He said you were filing for divorce and that you'd keep quiet about everything if he gave you half the assets. I found my voice. He said what? But Eleanor, his business partner Eleanor, she just called me. She said there's something you need to know about the Austin property, about the investments. Helena, I think we've both been played. Eleanor. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I knew Eleanor Foster from company events, Johnathan's longtime business partner and the co-founder of their investment firm. A sharp, no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd always been polite but distant with me. "What do you mean, played?" I asked, though ice was already forming in my stomach. "The house in Austin? It's not in our names. The mortgage application we signed? It was fake. Eleanor says the real property is owned by some offshore company. And the investment accounts Johnathan's been moving money into? They don't exist. The account numbers are fake." My mind raced. If Megan was telling the truth, then Johnathan wasn't just stealing from me and planning to run away with his mistress. He was stealing from both of us. "Where are you?" I demanded. "I'm here, at the airport. Johnathan told me to wait in the international departures area while he handled something with you. He said we'd meet at the gate for the Barcelona flight, that you'd already left for your own vacation somewhere else." The Barcelona flight, our anniversary trip. Johnathan had planned to take Megan on our romantic getaway, using our tickets, our reservations, our carefully planned itinerary. "Terminal 5, international departures," Megan continued. "Helena, I know you have every right to hate me, but Eleanor says if we don't figure this out together, we're both going to lose everything. She says there are other women, other victims." Through the glass, I saw Johnathan suddenly stiffen. His animated conversation had turned urgent, almost panicked. He was gesturing sharply, his free hand running through his hair, a tell I recognized from every time he was caught in a lie. "Meet me at gate 42, I told Megan. "We need to talk." As I gathered my things, my phone started buzzing with notifications, text messages, missed calls, voicemails. The financial institutions were confirming the account freezes, but something else was happening too. Messages from numbers I didn't recognize. One from Eleanor. "Helena, don't get on that plane. Johnathan isn't who you think he is. Meet me at the Marriott bar across from the airport. Room 314. Come alone." Another from an unknown number. "Mrs. Morrison, this is Detective Peter Williams, NYPD Financial Crimes Division. We need to speak with you about your husband's activities. Do not leave the city." And then, most chilling of all, a message from someone claiming to be Sarah Martinez. "Helena, I was married to Johnathan Morrison 3 years ago in Phoenix. He's done this before. You're in danger." My hands were shaking as I read the messages. 3 years ago? But 3 years ago, Johnathan and I were already married. We'd been married for 4 years at that point. I looked back toward the coffee shop and saw Johnathan moving quickly now, no longer talking on the phone. He was scanning the terminal, his head turning left and right, searching. When his eyes met mine across the crowded space, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Fear. But not the fear of a man caught cheating. Something much more desperate. He started walking toward me, but not with the casual stride of a husband returning with coffee. This was the urgent pace of a man whose plans had gone catastrophically wrong. My phone buzzed again. A text from Johnathan. "Helena, whatever anyone tells you, don't believe them. I can explain everything. Stay where you are. I'm coming back." But he was already coming back, and the expression on his face told me that whatever explanation he had prepared, it wasn't going to be the truth. I stood up, my carry-on bag in one hand, my phone in the other, and faced the most important decision of my life. Stay and confront my lying husband, or walk away and uncover the truth that everyone else seemed to know except me. Behind me, the gate agent announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're now beginning boarding for Flight 447 to Barcelona, our dream trip, our anniversary celebration, our romantic getaway that had been a lie from the very beginning." I turned my back on Johnathan and walked toward Gate 42, where a woman who'd been sleeping with my husband was waiting to tell me that we'd both been played by a man who might not even be who he claimed to be. The real story, I was beginning to realize, was just getting started. Gate 42 was buzzing with travelers heading to various European destinations, but I spotted Megan immediately. She looked exactly like her LinkedIn photo, blonde, polished, professional, except for the mascara streaks down her cheeks and the way her hands shook as she clutched a Starbucks cup. "Helena?" She stood up uncertainly as I approached. Thank you for coming. I know this is insane." Up close, she looked younger than her 28 years, vulnerable, scared. Despite everything, I felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for her. "Tell me about Eleanor's call," I said, sitting down across from her. No pleasantries, no accusations about the affair. We didn't have time for that now. Megan pulled out her phone. "Terminal 5, International Departures," Megan continued. "Helena, I know you have every right to hate me, but Eleanor says if we don't figure this out together, we're both going to lose everything. She says there are other women, other victims." Through the glass, I saw Johnathan suddenly stiffen. His animated conversation had turned urgent, almost panicked. He was gesturing sharply, his free hand running through his hair, a tell I recognized from every time he was caught in a lie. "Meet me at Gate 42, I told Megan. "We need to talk." As I gathered my things, my phone started buzzing with notifications, text messages, missed calls, voicemails. The financial institutions were confirming the account freezes, but something else was happening too. Messages from numbers I didn't recognize. One from Eleanor. "Helena, don't get on that plane. Johnathan isn't who you think he is. Meet me at the Marriott bar across from Forged. I never signed anything for a company called Meridian Holdings. But Helena, that's not the worst part." She pulled up another photo. Eleanor found these in Jonathan's office files. The photo showed a manila folder filled with documents. Even from the cell phone image, I could make out what appeared to be marriage certificates, driver's licenses, and passport photos. Multiple sets, with different names, but featuring the same face. Jonathan's face. "Eleanor thinks Johnathan has been using false identities to marry women, gain access to their finances, and then disappear," Megan said. "She found at least 4 different last names he's used: Morrison, Martinez, McKinney, and Matthews. Sarah. Martinez. The woman who'd texted me claiming to be Jonathan's wife from 3 years ago. If she'd known him as Johnathan Martinez, that would explain how he could be married to her while also married to me." "How long have you known him?" I asked. 8 months. We met at a financial conference in Chicago. He told me he was recently divorced, that his ex-wife had taken everything in the settlement, said he was starting over, building a new life. Megan's voice cracked. He seemed so genuine, so hurt. I wanted to help him heal. The same story, I realized. Different details, but the same emotional manipulation. Make the woman feel special, needed, chosen to help a wounded man rebuild his life. My phone buzzed. Another message from Eleanor. "Helena, meet me at the Marriott now. I found something else. Something about a man named Mac Thompson. Bring Megan." Mac Thompson. Another name I didn't recognize, but given the pattern we were uncovering, probably another identity. "We need to go," I told Megan, standing up. "Eleanor wants to meet us." "What about Johnathan? He's going to be looking for both of us." I glanced back toward the main terminal area. Through the crowds, I could see Johnathan near our original gate, his phone pressed to his ear, his head turning frantically as he searched for me. Even from this distance, I could see the desperation in his body language. "Let him look," I said. "We have bigger problems than an angry husband." The walk to the airport Marriott took 15 minutes, during which Megan and I compared notes about our relationships with Johnathan. The similarities were chilling. He'd used the same restaurants for romantic dinners, the same vacation destinations, even the same lines about wanting to build a future together. "He took me to Napa last month," Megan said as we entered the hotel lobby. "Said it was where he'd always wanted to take someone special." He took me there for my birthday 2 years ago, I replied. Said the same thing. Eleanor was waiting for us in the hotel bar, a stack of documents spread across a corner table. She looked up as we approached, and I was struck by how tired she seemed. This woman who I'd always seen as Johnathan's confident business partner looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. "Helena, I'm so sorry," she said, standing to embrace me. "I had no idea what he was doing. If I'd known—" "How long have you suspected?" I asked, sitting down. "Honestly? About 6 months. But I thought he was just having a midlife crisis, maybe skimming a little from the business to fund his affair." She gestured to Megan apologetically. "I never imagined it was this systematic, this calculated." Eleanor spread out more documents on the table. "After I called Megan this morning, I drove to the office and pulled everything I could find. Helena, your husband has been running a sophisticated financial fraud operation for at least 5 years, possibly longer." She handed me a chart she'd apparently created, showing connections between different identities, bank accounts, and victims. Mac Thompson was his identity in Seattle 2 years ago. He married a woman named Sarah Kim, emptied her accounts, and disappeared. Before that, he was Peter Walsh in Denver, married to Jennifer Chen. "Peter Walsh," Megan gasped. "That's my last name. Walsh. He said it was a coincidence when we met, that it must be fate." "Not a coincidence," Eleanor said grimly. "He chooses his fake names carefully, uses variations of his victims' names, their relatives' names, creates false identities that feel familiar and trustworthy." My phone started ringing. Johnathan's name appeared on the screen. "Don't answer it," Eleanor warned. "Helena, there's something else. Something I found that made me realize how much danger you might be in." She pulled out a final document, this one printed from what looked like a secure email account. "I found this on Johnathan's computer this morning, scheduled to be sent automatically, at noon today." The email was addressed to someone called the broker and contained a list of account numbers, property addresses, and what appeared to be liquidation instructions. At the bottom, in Johnathan's typical casual style, was a single line that made my stomach drop. "The Helena situation is contained. All assets transferred as discussed. Recommend standard cleanup protocol for both subjects." "Both subjects?" I whispered. Eleanor nodded gravely. "You and Megan." "Helena, I don't think Johnathan was planning to just disappear this time. I think he was planning to make sure you couldn't follow him or expose him." The hotel bar suddenly felt too small, too crowded. Other patrons were chatting and laughing, completely unaware that 3 women at a corner table had just discovered they were potential murder targets. "We need to call the police," Megan said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Already done," Eleanor replied. "Detective Williams should be here any minute." "But Helena, there's one more thing. The broker that Johnathan was emailing? I've seen that contact before. It's connected to a much larger operation. Johnathan isn't working alone." Before I could ask what she meant, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Helena Morrison, you have something that belongs to us. The airport. Terminal 5, Gate 67. Come alone, or your friend Eleanor won't be leaving this hotel." I looked up to see Eleanor's face go pale as she read a similar message on her own phone. "They know where we are," she said quietly. Through the hotel bar's windows, I could see black SUVs pulling into the parking lot. "We need to move, now." Eleanor was already gathering the documents, shoving them into her briefcase with practiced efficiency. "There's a service exit through the kitchen. I scoped it out when I got here." "Wait," I said, grabbing her arm. "How do you know about service exits? How did you know to scope out escape routes?" Eleanor paused, her eyes meeting mine with an expression I'd never seen before. Not the polished business partner I'd known for years, but something harder, more calculating. "Because this isn't my first time dealing with people like the broker," she said quietly. Helena, there's a lot about me, about my partnership with Johnathan, that you don't know. Before I could process what that meant, Megan's phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and her face went white. It's him. It's Johnathan. Answer? It, Eleanor said. Put it on speaker. We need to know what he knows. Megan's hand shook as she accepted the call. Jonathan's voice filled the hotel bar, and even through the phone I could hear his panic. Megan, baby, where are you? I went. Back to the gate and you weren't there. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. What do you mean? Megan managed, her voice surprisingly steady. My cards aren't working. None of them. The bank says all my accounts have been frozen. And I just got a call from someone saying they have Helena, that if I don't meet them at gate 67 in 30 minutes, they're going to... His voice cut off abruptly. Eleanor and I exchanged glances. They didn't have me. Which meant either Johnathan was lying, or he was being fed false information. Johnathan? Megan prompted. Are you there? I'm here. Listen, whoever you're with, whoever told you to leave the gate, they're not who they seem. Eleanor isn't who she seems. The whole thing is... The line went dead. He's right about one thing, Eleanor said grimly. I'm not who I seem. Helena, I need you to sit down for this. We don't have time. We have time for this, because your life depends on understanding who you're really dealing with. Eleanor's voice carried an authority I'd never heard before. I'm not just Jonathan's business partner. I haven't been for a long time. She pulled out what looked like a federal ID badge. Special Agent Eleanor Foster, FBI Financial Crimes Division. I've been investigating Johnathan and his network for 3 years. The hotel bar seemed to tilt around me. Your FBI? The Morrison Foster investment firm has been my cover. When we first suspected Johnathan was part of a larger marriage fraud network, I approached him about becoming business partners. It was the perfect way to monitor his activities and gather evidence. Megan leaned forward. So when I met him, when we started dating, I knew about you from the beginning. I've been documenting everything. The fake documents, the forged signatures, the money transfers. But Helena, 3 days ago, something changed. Johnathan started making moves that weren't part of his usual pattern. What kind of moves? Eleanor pulled out her laptop, opening files that looked far more sophisticated than simple business records. The broker isn't just someone who helps fraudsters disappear. He runs a network that provides new identities, launders money, and when necessary, eliminates people who become problems. Eliminates, I repeated, the word sticking in my throat. Johnathan has never been a violent criminal before. His pattern was always the same: marry, steal, disappear, repeat. But something spooked him about you, Helena. Maybe it was how quickly you figured out his financial activities. Maybe it was something else. But 5 days ago, he reached out to the broker about permanent solutions. My phone buzzed with another text. Helena Morrison, you have 10 minutes to reach gate 67 or Eleanor Foster dies. Come alone. They don't have me, I said, showing Eleanor the message. But they think they do. Which means Johnathan told them he'd neutralized both of you, Eleanor said. He probably thought you'd both be on that Barcelona flight by now, out of the country and easy to handle quietly. But the canceled credit cards changed everything, Megan added, understanding dawning on her face. When Helena's financial counterstrike hit, it exposed Jonathan's lies to his own people, Eleanor nodded. The broker's organization doesn't tolerate failure or exposure. If they think Johnathan has compromised their operation, they'll eliminate him too, I finished, unless he can deliver what he promised. Which means he's probably told them he can get you both to gate 67. I thought about the panicked look on Jonathan's face at the coffee shop, the desperate edge in his voice on the phone call. He wasn't just a man whose affair had been exposed. He was a man whose criminal partners were turning on him. So what do we do? I asked. Eleanor closed her laptop with a snap. We end this, tonight. But Helena, I need to know. Are you willing to help us take down not just Johnathan, but his entire network? What would that involve? Going to Gate 67, playing the part of the terrified wife, wearing a wire and getting them to incriminate themselves. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It is, but it's also the only way to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Helena, we've identified at least 12 other women Johnathan has targeted over the past 5 years. 4 of them are still missing. Missing? The word hit me like a physical blow. Not just financially ruined. Missing. What about Detective Williams? I asked. The one who texted me? Part of my team. He's been coordinating with airport security and local police. We have people in position, but we need someone on the inside to get the evidence we need to take down the whole network. Through the hotel windows, I could see more black SUVs arriving. Men in suits were getting out, speaking into earpieces, conducting themselves with military precision. They're not going away, Eleanor said. And if we don't end this now, Johnathan will disappear into their network and resurface somewhere else, with a new identity, ready to destroy another woman's life. I thought about the marriage certificates Eleanor had shown us, the list of fake names, the women who were still missing. I thought about Megan, who'd been manipulated just as thoroughly as I had. I thought about the next Helena Morrison, somewhere, out there, who might meet a charming man named Johnathan something and think she'd found her soulmate. What do I need to do? First, we get you wired up, Eleanor said, pulling a small device from her briefcase. This transmitter will broadcast everything to our team. But Helena, the moment you feel unsafe, you say the code word Barcelona, and we extract you immediately. I was about to respond when Megan's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed Detective Peter Williams. I thought he was on your team, I said to Eleanor. He is. Eleanor's brow furrowed as she looked at the phone. Answer it. Speaker. Megan Walsh? The voice was crisp, professional. This is Detective Williams, NYPD. Do not trust the woman claiming to be FBI Agent Foster. Her real name is Elena Kozlov, and she's wanted in connection with a series of international fraud cases. The hotel bar seemed to freeze around us. Eleanor's face had gone completely white. That's impossible, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Ms. Walsh, you and Mrs. Morrison are in immediate danger. Agent Foster's real identity is Elena Kozlov, a former Russian intelligence operative who's been running marriage fraud schemes across Europe and North America. The FBI badge she showed you is fake. My mind reeled. Eleanor, Elena, was staring at the phone like it might explode. Detective Williams, I managed. How do we know you're really who you say you are? Smart question, Mrs. Morrison. I'm sending you a photo of my badge and ID number. You can verify them with NYPD directly. But right now, I need you to get away. From Foster, Kozlov, immediately. Eleanor suddenly stood up, her movement sharp and aggressive. Helena, don't listen to this. Someone's trying to divide us. Then explain why he knows your real name, Megan said, backing away from the table. Elena Kozlov? Because it's not... Eleanor stopped mid-sentence, her hand moving toward her briefcase. For a split second, I saw something there that made my blood run cold. Not the movement of someone reaching for documents, but the practiced motion of someone reaching for a weapon. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Williams. Leave the hotel now. Foster is armed and extremely dangerous. We have the building surrounded. You're lying, Eleanor said, but her accent had changed slightly. The crisp American pronunciation had softened into something that could have been Eastern European. Helena, everything I told you about Johnathan is true. He is part of a criminal network. But Detective Williams? He's not police. He's working with the broker. Prove it, I said, standing up slowly. Eleanor's hand moved deeper into her briefcase. The proof is in here. Bank records, wire, transfers, communications between Williams and the broker. Helena, your husband contacted them 3 days ago because he discovered I was investigating him. They're here to clean up the mess. Then why? Megan asked. Did Detective Williams tell us to verify his badge number with NYPD? Because he has. People inside the department. The verification will come back clean, but it's fake. Eleanor's voice was becoming more desperate. Helena, think about it. Why would real FBI let you walk into danger at Gate 67? Why would they use you as bait? My phone rang. Jonathan's name on the screen again. Answer it, Eleanor commanded. Ask him about Detective Williams. With shaking hands, I accepted the call and put it on speaker. Helena, thank God. Where are you? Jonathan's voice was strained, panicked. I just got off the phone with someone claiming to be FBI, but I think they're fake. They know things about you, about us, that only someone with access to our personal information would know. What kind of things? I asked. Your mother's maiden name, the name of your first pet, details from our wedding. Helena, I think someone's been watching us for months, gathering information. Eleanor was nodding urgently, but something in Jonathan's voice didn't sound right, too rehearsed, like he was reading from a script. Jonathan, I said carefully, where are you right now? Gate 67. Helena, they have people here who say they're federal agents, but their IDs look wrong, and they keep asking about something you have. Something they say belongs to them. I don't have anything that belongs to anyone, I said. That's what I told them, but Helena, I think they're going to hurt me if you don't come. Please, just come and talk to them. Maybe we can figure this out together. The call ended abruptly. Eleanor was watching me intently. Helena, that wasn't your husband. Voice modulation technology is very sophisticated now. They can make anyone sound like anyone else. How convenient, Megan said. Every piece of evidence that contradicts your story has some technological explanation, Mickey. Phone buzzed with another text from Detective Williams. Mrs. Morrison, we've traced the call claiming to be from your husband. It originated from inside the hotel you're currently in. Foster has been manipulating you from the beginning. I looked at Eleanor. Elena? And saw something in her eyes shift. The concerned, helpful business partner was gone, replaced by something colder, more calculating. Helena, she said softly, I need you to listen very carefully. Yes, my real name is Elena Kozlov. Yes, I worked for Russian intelligence. But that doesn't change the fact that your husband is a criminal, or that the brokers people are here to eliminate both of you. So you admit you've been lying, I said. I've been using a cover identity, yes. But everything I told you about Jonathan's crimes is true. And Helena, there's something else. Something I didn't tell you before because I wasn't sure you could. Handle it. She reached into her briefcase, and this time I saw the gun clearly. The reason the brokers people want you so badly isn't just because you exposed Jonathan's operation. It's because 3 weeks ago, when you were investigating your husband's finances, you accidentally accessed something you weren't supposed to see. What are you talking about? When you logged into that Meridian Holdings account, the one that turned out to be fake? Your login was recorded. But Helena, Meridian Holdings isn't just a fake company Jonathan created. It's a front for a massive money laundering operation, and your access created a digital trail that could expose the entire network. Through the hotel windows, I could see more vehicles arriving. Not just black SUVs now, but what looked like unmarked police cars. So everyone wants me, I said slowly. Because I accidentally stumbled into something bigger than my husband's affair. Elena nodded. And the only way any of us get out of this alive is if we work together to... The hotel. Fire alarms started blaring and the lights went out. In the darkness of the hotel bar, emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie red shadows across our faces. The fire alarm's shrill wail made it nearly impossible to think clearly, but I could see Elena's gun clearly now, no longer hidden, in her briefcase. This way, she shouted over the alarm, grabbing my arm. The kitchen exit, now. No, Megan said, backing toward the hotel lobby. I'm not going anywhere with someone pointing a gun. The gun isn't for you, Elena replied urgently. It's for them. She pointed toward the hotel's front entrance, where dark figures were moving through the lobby despite the evacuation alarm. Helena, we have maybe 2 minutes before they reach us. Through the chaos, I heard my phone buzzing frantically. Multiple calls, multiple texts. In the red emergency lighting, I could see messages flooding in. James Parker, my PI. Helena, get out now. Your location is compromised. Unknown number. Mrs. Morrison, this is Agent Sarah Kim, FBI. Do not trust Elena Kozlov. We're here to extract you. Another unknown. Helena, this is Mac Thompson. I was married to Johnathan 5 years ago. I'm male. He's not who you think, Mac. Thompson was a man? My mind reeled as I tried to process this new information. Elena saw me reading and grabbed my phone. Voice modulation, remember? They can make anyone sound like anyone. Helena, that text about Mac Thompson being male? It's designed to confuse you, make you doubt everything. Or, Megan said, it's the truth, and you've been lying about everything. The fire alarm suddenly cut off, leaving an ominous silence. In the distance, we could hear voices coordinating, footsteps moving with military precision through the hotel. Decision time, Elena said. Kitchen exit, or we stay here and find out who reaches us first. Before I could answer, a new voice cut through the silence. Johnathan's voice, but from somewhere inside the hotel, not from a phone. Helena? Helena, where are you? I know you're here. Elena's face went white. That's impossible. He should be at gate 67. Unless, I said slowly, he was never at gate 67. Unless he's been here the whole time. The sound of footsteps was getting closer, and I could make out multiple voices now. But one of them stopped me cold. Helena Morrison, came a woman's voice from the hotel corridor. This is Agent Sarah Kim, FBI. We have the building surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. That's the same name as one of your supposed victims, Megan said to Elena. Sarah Kim from Seattle. Elena's accent was becoming more pronounced. Now. Because they're using the names of real victims to gain your trust. Helena, please, we need to move. But something else was bothering me. In all the chaos, one detail stood out. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back through the messages. Elena, I said, you said Mac Thompson was Johnathan's identity in Seattle, married to Sarah Kim. But the text I just got says Mac Thompson is male and was married to Johnathan. Voice modulation. No, I interrupted. Not voice, text, and it would explain something that's been bothering me. All of Johnathan's victims have been women, right? But what if some of his identities were female? What if he's been targeting both men and women? Elena stared at me. That's not possible. Why not? If he can forge documents, create fake identities, why not cross-gender identities too? It would double his potential victim pool. Megan's eyes widened. Oh my God, Helena, what if that's why Elena, really knows so much about his operation? What if she didn't investigate him? What if she is him? I finished. The woman holding the gun took a step back. That's insane. Is it? You admitted your name is Elena Kozlov. You've been Johnathan's business partner for years. You know details about his crimes that only someone on the inside would know. And you've been pushing me toward danger all day. Helena, think about what you're saying. I am thinking. For the first time today, I'm really thinking. I turned to Megan. When you met Johnathan, when you started dating him, did Eleanor ever come around? Ever meet you? Actually, yes. Johnathan introduced us about 2 months into our relationship. Said she was his business partner and wanted to meet the woman who was making him so happy. And what was she like? friendly. Asked a lot of questions about my background, my finances, my family. I thought she was just being protective of her business partner. She was gathering information, I realized. Elena, you've been working. With Johnathan all along, you were part of the con from the beginning. The gun in Elena's hand was no longer pointed down. Now it was aimed directly at me. Very good, Helena. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Her accent was fully Russian now, no longer trying to hide it. You're right about almost everything. Elena Kozlov and Johnathan Morrison have been partners for 6 years. We target couples, not just individual women. Twice the profit, and when one spouse gets suspicious, the other partner is there to provide comfort and misdirection. But I'm not married to a couple, I said, my mouth dry with fear. No. But Johnathan got greedy with you, started skimming extra money, talking about leaving the partnership, so I had to adapt the plan. The plan was to kill me. The plan was to make it look like Johnathan killed you in a jealous rage when he discovered your affair with his business partner. Very tragic, very believable, Megan gasped. My affair? Oh yes. Elena Foster has been having a secret relationship with Helena Morrison for months. We have hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even some lovely photographs. When Johnathan found out, he snapped. The voices in the corridor were getting louder. Real FBI, real police, or more of Elena's people? I had no way to know. But there's a problem with your plan, I said, stalling for time. I canceled Johnathan's credit cards. If he's broke, how is he supposed to disappear after killing me? Elena smiled, and it was the most chilling expression I'd ever seen. He's not supposed to disappear, Helena. He's supposed to die too. Murder-suicide. Very tidy. The hotel room door suddenly exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris from the exploded door, 3 figures emerged wearing tactical gear. But the face I saw first made my heart stop. It was Johnathan, but not the panicked, desperate man from the phone calls. This was someone I'd never seen before. Cold, professional, moving with military precision. Elena, he said calmly, you talk too much. Elena's gun swung toward him. The plan was to keep them alive until we got the digital access codes. Plans changed. Johnathan stepped fully into the room, and I could see 2 other figures behind him. Both women, both carrying weapons. Helena figured out too much, too fast. We're moving to clean up protocol. Wait, I said, my voice cracking. You're working together, both of you. This whole thing, the affair, the business partnership, everything, it was all fake. Johnathan smiled, and it was nothing like the warm expression I'd fallen in love with. Not fake, Helena, strategic. Elena and I have been married for 12 years. What you thought was our marriage, that was just the longest con we've ever run. The room seemed to spin around me. Married? Elena Kozlov and Viktor Petrov, Elena said, her Russian accent now completely undisguised. Johnathan Morrison was just one of Victor's many identities. We've been running marriage fraud operations across 3 continents. Megan had gone completely white. But the documents Eleanor showed us, the evidence of other victims, all real, Johnathan, Victor, confirmed. We've targeted 43 couples over the past 8 years. The pattern you figured out, Helena. One of us marries the primary target while the other poses as a helpful friend, business partner, or concerned family member. We gather intelligence on both spouses, then systematically drain their assets. 43 couples, I whispered. That's nearly 100 people. 86 to be precise, Elena said with pride. And we've never been caught because we eliminate loose ends. One of the women behind Victor stepped forward, and I recognized her immediately from photos I'd seen earlier. Hello, Helena. I'm the real Sarah Kim. Mac Thompson wasn't a male victim. Mac Thompson was my cover identity when I was married to your husband 2 years ago. My mind reeled. You're part of this too. We all are, the third woman said, I'm Jennifer Chen, but you might know me better as Detective Peter Williams. Voice modulation technology is remarkable these days. The FBI agent, the detective, the concerned business partner, Victor explained casually. All members of our organization. We create an entire ecosystem of trusted authority figures around our targets. But James Parker, I said desperately, my private investigator, he helped me discover the truth about the accounts. James Parker works for us too, Elena laughed. Helena, everything you think you discovered, we fed it to you. The canceled credit cards, the frozen accounts, that was all part of the plan. To make you feel empowered, make you think you were fighting back. Why? Megan asked. Why create such an elaborate scheme? Because confidence makes people predictable, Victor replied. When you think you're winning, you make bigger moves, take greater risks. Helena's financial counterattack gave us access to accounts we couldn't reach before. Her investigation provided us with security codes and passwords she entered while trying to protect herself. I thought about every move I'd made over the past 3 weeks, every account I'd checked, every password I'd entered, every financial institution I'd contacted. They'd been watching it all. The Meridian Holdings access, I said slowly. That wasn't an accident. You wanted me to find it. Meridian Holdings is our central money laundering operation, Elena confirmed. We needed an insider, someone with legitimate access, to update our security protocols. Your login gave us everything we needed to transfer funds without triggering banking alerts. So the whole network, the broker, the international conspiracy. Real, but not what you think, Victor said. We're not small players working for some mysterious criminal mastermind. We are the criminal mastermind. Elena and I built this operation from nothing. Sarah Kim pulled out a tablet, showing me what appeared to be financial records. We've laundered over $340 million through operations. Like yours, Helena. Marriage fraud was just the beginning. Now we handle money for arms dealers, drug cartels, terrorist organizations. And governments, Jennifer Chen added with a smirk. You'd be surprised how many legitimate intelligence agencies use our services when they need funds moved without congressional oversight. My phone, which I'd forgotten I was still holding, suddenly buzzed with an incoming call. Victor glanced at it and smiled. Ah, that would be the real FBI. Agent Foster, the real Eleanor Foster, has finally tracked us down. Took her long enough, through. The hotel windows, I could see flashing lights, SWAT vehicles, and what looked like a small army of federal agents taking positions around the building. You see, Helena? Elena said. There really is an FBI investigation into our operation. They've been chasing us for 3 years, getting close, then watching us disappear. But you gave us something they never expected. What? Legitimacy, Victor replied. Helena Morrison, successful marketing executive, discovering her husband's crimes and cooperating with law enforcement? You're going to be the perfect witness to testify that we're actually the victims here. I'm not testifying to anything, I said. Oh, but you are, Elena said, raising her gun again. Because we have, Megan, and if you don't do exactly what we say, she's going to have a very unfortunate accident. Victor's radio crackled to life. Sir, FBI is demanding to speak with the hostages. They want proof of life. Hostages? I looked around the room, finally understanding. This isn't a cleanup operation. This is your escape plan. Very good, Victor said. We're going to walk out of here as victims of our own criminal enterprise. Elena will claim she was undercover FBI who got too deep. I'll be the reformed criminal who was trying to help the investigation. And you, Helena, will be the brave wife who helped expose the whole network. And then? Then we disappear into witness protection with new identities, courtesy of the U.S. government, and start this whole operation over again in 5 years. The phone in my hand rang again. This time Victor answered it himself. This is Johnathan Morrison, he said, and his voice was exactly the man I'd married. Frightened, desperate, loving. Please, they have my wife and 2 other women. We'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt them. He ended the call and looked at me with that same chilling smile. Helena, you're about to help us commit the perfect crime. You're insane if you think I'm helping you, I said, backing away from Victor. And Elena, the real FBI is outside. They'll figure out who you really are. Will they? Elena asked, pulling out an official-looking document. FBI Special Agent Elena Foster, undercover for 3 years investigating the Morrison-Petrov crime syndicate. My credentials are perfect because they're real. I've been feeding the FBI information about a fictional criminal network while running my actual operations right under their noses. Victor nodded approvingly. The beauty of our system is that we always have legitimate law enforcement credentials. Elena really is FBI. She just happens to be a corrupt agent. And I really am a reformed criminal consultant working with federal agencies. That's impossible, Megan said. Is it? Sarah Kim stepped forward, showing her own badge. NYPD Detective Sarah Kim, Financial Crimes Division. I've been Elena's contact inside the police department for 2 years. Every report, every investigation, every piece of evidence, it all goes through me first. My mind raced through every interaction I'd had over the past 3 weeks. The call from Premier Credit Services about unusual activity on my account. Jennifer. Chen works there, Victor confirmed. She's the one who alerted you to the suspicious transactions, carefully timing it to start your investigation exactly when we needed it. And James Parker, my private investigator. Licensed, bonded, and completely corrupt, Elena said with satisfaction. He's been feeding you information we wanted you to have while reporting your every move back to us. I felt like the ground was dissolving beneath my feet. Every person I'd trusted, every authority figure I'd turned to for help, had been working for the people trying to destroy me. Victor's radio crackled again. Sir, FBI wants to establish contact. They're asking for Agent Foster. Tell them Agent Foster is securing the scene and will brief them shortly, Elena replied into the radio. Then she turned to me. Helena, you're going to walk out of here and tell them exactly what we rehearsed. Any deviation from the script, and Megan dies. What script? I demanded. Sarah Kim handed me a piece of paper. You discovered your husband was involved in money laundering. Agent Foster was working undercover to gather evidence. When the criminal network discovered her real identity, they took hostages. You and Megan are innocent victims who helped expose a major international crime ring. I scanned the document. It was detailed, plausible, and completely false. And if I refuse? Then Agent Foster's investigation ends here, Victor said calmly. 3 victims of criminal retaliation. Very tragic. The real masterminds escape justice again. But the FBI will investigate. The FBI will investigate based on evidence provided by Detective Kim and Agent Foster, Elena interrupted. Evidence? That points to a criminal network that conveniently doesn't exist anymore because all the key players are dead. Megan looked at me desperately. Helena, maybe we should— No, I said firmly. I won't help them escape justice. Victor sighed. I was hoping you'd be reasonable. Sarah, prepare the alternative scenario. Sarah Kim nodded and pulled out her phone. This is Detective Kim. We have shots fired inside the hotel. Multiple casualties. Request immediate medical and additional backup. What are you doing? I asked. Creating evidence, Victor replied. In 30 seconds, Sarah is going to fire several shots. The official report will show that the criminal network executed their hostages before federal agents could intervene. You're bluffing. Elena raised her gun toward Megan. 3, 2, wait, I shouted. Okay, I'll do it. I'll read your script. Smart choice, Victor said. But Helena, there's one more thing you need to understand. This isn't just about our escape. We have leverage over you that extends far beyond this hotel room. What leverage? Sarah Kim pulled out another tablet, showing me bank records I recognized, but not from any account I'd ever opened. Over the past 3 weeks, while you were investigating your husband's finances, you also opened several new accounts, made large cash deposits, purchased cryptocurrency, all completely legal transactions. I never did any of that. The bank security footage says otherwise, Jennifer Chen said, joining the conversation. Amazing what digital editing can accomplish. These days, the records show you laundering money right alongside your husband. Victor smiled. So even if you somehow manage to expose us today, you'll go down as a co-conspirator. Your choice. Walk out of here as a victim and witness, or spend the rest of your life in federal prison for crimes you didn't commit. My phone started ringing. Elena grabbed it and answered. "This is FBI Agent Foster," she said, her voice completely professional. "Yes, sir. I have 3 civilians secure. Mrs. Morrison is cooperating fully with our investigation." She handed the phone to me. "It's Agent Rodriguez, FBI. He wants to speak with you." I took the phone with trembling hands. "Hello? Mrs. Morrison, this is Agent Rodriguez. Are you injured?" I looked around the room at the people holding guns, at Megan's terrified face, at the script I was supposed to read. No, I'm not injured. Agent Foster tells me you've provided crucial information about your husband's criminal activities. We're going to need a full debrief when you come out." "Yes, sir." "Mrs. Morrison, is Agent Foster treating you well? Do you feel safe in her custody?" I met Elena's eyes. She was watching me intently, her finger resting on the trigger of her gun. "She's been very professional," I managed. "Good. We'll have you out of there shortly. The situation is almost resolved." The call ended. Elena took the phone back. "Very good, Helena. You're learning." "What happens after we walk out?" I asked. "We give our statements. You testify at a few hearings about the criminals who held you hostage, and then we all disappear into new lives. You'll be relocated for your protection, of course. And Megan? We'll corroborate your story perfectly. Won't you, Megan?" Megan nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face. Victor checked his watch. "Time to go. Helena, remember, you're a victim, not a witness. You don't know anything about criminal operations. You're just a wife who discovered her husband's secret life." As we moved toward the door, Elena whispered in my ear, "And Helena, that recording device James Parker gave you 3 weeks ago? The one you thought you were using to gather evidence against your husband? It's been transmitting everything to us. Every conversation, every phone call, every plan you made. We've been watching you plan your revenge while we planned ours." I stopped walking. The recording device, the small digital recorder James had given me for my protection. I'd been carrying it everywhere, documenting everything. "Which means," I said slowly, "you have recordings of this entire conversation, of you admitting to being criminals." Victor's confident expression flickered for just a moment. "Unless," I continued, "that device has been transmitting to someone else entirely." The silence in the room was deafening. Victor's eyes narrowed as he processed what I'd just said. "What do you mean? Someone else entirely?" Elena demanded, her gun still trained on Megan. I reached slowly into my jacket pocket, pulling out the small recording device James had given me 3 weeks ago. "You assumed James Parker was working for you. But what if you're wrong? What if the real James Parker died 2 years ago, and the man I hired was someone else entirely?" Victor's face had gone pale. "That's impossible. We've been paying Parker for 3 years. Have you ever met him in person?" I asked. "Or have all your communications been through encrypted messages and wire transfers?" Sarah Kim stepped forward, her hand moving toward her weapon. "Helena, you're bluffing." "Am I?" I pressed a button on the recording device, and a voice filled the room. My voice, from 3 weeks ago. "James, I need you to investigate my husband's finances. I think he's hiding something." But then another voice responded, Not James Parker's voice, but a woman's. "Mrs. Morrison, I've been waiting for you to call. My name is Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI Internal Affairs. We've been investigating the corruption in Agent Foster's task force for 8 months. Victor lunged for the device, but I jerked it away. You see, I continued, 3 weeks ago when I tried to hire James Parker, I discovered he'd been dead for 2 years. Car accident. But someone had been using his identity, his license, his business. When I reported it to the FBI, Agent Torres saw an opportunity. Elena's Russian accent was becoming thicker. You're lying. The real beauty of your system, I said, is that it relies on your targets being isolated and confused. But what happens when your target isn't actually confused? What happens when she's been working with real federal agents from the beginning? I pressed another button on the device. This time, it was Victor's voice from just minutes ago. We've laundered over $340 million through operations like yours, Helena. Marriage fraud was just the beginning. Now we handle money for arms dealers, drug cartels, terrorist organizations. Every word, I said. Every confession, every detail about your operation. It's all been recorded and transmitted in real time to a federal task force that's been building a case against you. Victor's hand moved toward his weapon, but I held up the device. I wouldn't. This device has a dead man's switch. If my heart rate spikes too high or if the device is damaged, everything gets uploaded automatically to multiple news outlets and law enforcement agencies. That's not possible, Jennifer Chen said, but her voice lacked conviction. Agent Torres has been investigating police corruption for 15 years, I explained. When I contacted the FBI about the fake James Parker, she realized you'd infiltrated multiple law enforcement agencies. The only way to build a case was from the outside, using someone you thought you controlled. Megan looked at me with confusion and hope. Helena, are you saying... I'm saying that for the past 3 weeks, I've been working undercover for the BI. I met Victor's eyes. Every financial move I made, every account I accessed, every password I entered, it was all designed to map your entire network. Elena laughed, but it sounded forced. Even if that's true, we still have legitimate law enforcement credentials. We can still walk out of here. Can you? I asked. Sarah, why don't you call the NYPD and verify your status? Sarah Kim hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Her face went white as she read the screen. My credentials have been suspended. Internal Affairs investigation. And Elena, I continued, I think you'll find that Agent Torres has been building a case against you. With Internal Affairs for months, your FBI access was revoked about an hour ago. Victor's radio crackled, but this time the voice wasn't one of his people. This is Agent Torres, FBI. The building is surrounded. You have 60 seconds to release the hostages and surrender. How? Victor demanded. How did you know? I didn't. At first, I admitted, but your system had a fatal flaw. You were so good at manipulating people's emotions that you forgot to account for their intelligence. When James Parker first contacted me, something felt off. His background check was too perfect, his references too clean. I pulled out my phone, showing them a message thread. So I did my own investigation, discovered the real James Parker was dead. When I reported it to the FBI, Agent Torres told me about their investigation into police corruption and asked if I'd be willing to help. The canceled credit cards, Elena said slowly, understanding dawning on her face, were designed to force you to accelerate your timeline and make mistakes. Every financial institution you thought I was contacting for protection, I was actually reporting suspicious activities and mapping your network connections. Victor looked around the room at his team, seeing the doubt in their faces for the first time. So the Barcelona trip was never going to happen. I knew you were planning something at the airport. Agent Torres had federal agents positioned there from the beginning. Megan stared at me. But the affair, the hurt, the betrayal, was all real, I said softly. I really did discover Victor's infidelity. I really was devastated. But when I learned the scope of what they were doing, when I understood how many people they'd hurt, I decided to do something about it. The other victims, Elena said desperately, the missing women, are alive, came Agent Torres's voice from outside the door. We found them yesterday in a safe house in New Jersey. They're all willing to testify. Victor's composure finally cracked completely. You ruined everything. Years of work. You ruined your own operation, I said. By getting greedy. By targeting someone who worked in marketing, someone whose job it is to spot patterns and inconsistencies in narratives. Sarah Kim suddenly moved toward the window, but stopped short when she saw the federal agents positioned outside. There's no way out. Actually, there is, I said. Agent Torres is offering deals to anyone willing to cooperate fully. Reduced sentences in exchange for information about your international connections. Victor raised his gun toward me. I'd rather die than spend my life in prison. Victor, Elena said quietly. It's over. No, he replied. We can still. The hotel room door burst open again, this time with real federal agents in tactical gear. FBI, weapons down, now! As Victor hesitated, Elena made her choice. She dropped her gun and raised her hands. Victor Petrov and Elena Kozlov, she said clearly. I want to make a deal. In the chaos that followed, agents securing weapons, reading rights, coordinating arrests, Agent Torres approached me. She was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes that had seen too much corruption. Mrs. Morrison, you did exceptional work. I know this wasn't easy. What happens now? I asked. Now we build the biggest financial fraud case in FBI history. And Helena? She smiled. You get to testify as a federal witness who helped bring down a criminal empire. As they led Victor and Elena away in handcuffs, Victor turned back to me one last time. You think you've won, Helena. But this network is bigger than you can imagine. We have people everywhere. This isn't over. I met his eyes steadily. You're right, Victor. It isn't over. It's just getting started. As the FBI agents processed the arrests, Agent Torres pulled me aside. Helena, we need to talk privately. There's something Victor said that concerns me. We stepped into an adjacent hotel room where she activated a signal jammer. What he said about the network being bigger than we imagine, he's not bluffing. We intercepted communications suggesting this operation was just one cell of a much larger international organization. How much larger? I asked. Potentially hundreds of operatives across 6 countries. And Helena, there's something else. We believe there's a mole inside our own investigation. Before I could respond, the lights in the hotel went out completely. Emergency power didn't kick in this time. In the darkness, I heard the unmistakable sound of windows breaking and rapid footsteps. This is Agent Torres, she whispered into her radio. We have a breach. Possible extraction attempt. A voice crackled back. Agent Torres, this is Agent Rodriguez, where are you? We lost contact with your team. But Torres's expression in the dim light from her phone told me something was wrong. Rodriguez was supposed to be in Washington today, she whispered. The hotel room door suddenly burst open and figures in tactical gear poured in. But these weren't FBI agents. They moved too precisely, too quietly. Agent Torres, came a familiar voice. Victor stepped through the doorway, no longer in handcuffs. Thank you for the comprehensive briefing on your investigation. Very thorough. That's impossible, Torres said, her hand moving toward her weapon. You were arrested. By my own people wearing federal uniforms, Victor replied calmly. Did you really think we'd operate for years without contingency plans? Behind him, Elena appeared, also free. The beauty of infiltrating law enforcement, Agent Torres, is that we can stage arrests as easily as we can stage crimes. The other agents, The real FBI team, I started, are currently responding to a staged terrorist threat at JFK Airport, Elena said. Amazing how easy it is to redirect federal resources when you have the right credentials. Torres was backing toward the window, her radio dead in her hands. Helena, the recording device is still transmitting, I said, holding it up. But Victor, you're forgetting something important. What's that? You assumed I was only working with Agent Torres. I pressed a button on the device, and suddenly the hotel room filled with new voices coming from hidden speakers throughout the building. This is Director Sarah Chen, FBI. The voice echoed from multiple directions. Viktor Petrov, Elena Kozlov, you are surrounded by federal agents. Your extraction team has been neutralized. Victor's confident expression flickered. Impossible. We tracked all communications. You tracked the communications you knew about, I said. But you never figured out that Agent Torres wasn't the only person I was working with. Sarah Chen, the real Sarah Chen, not your imposter, has been coordinating a multi-agency task force for 6 months. Elena raised her weapon toward me, but froze as red laser dots appeared on her chest from multiple directions. The windows you broke to get in? I continued. They were rigged with sensors. The moment your people entered the building, every exit was sealed and backup was activated. Through the broken windows, I could see real federal vehicles surrounding the hotel, their searchlights illuminating the building. Helena, Victor said desperately, you don't understand. If you expose our network, you'll be putting yourself in danger for the rest of your life. These people will be in federal prison, I finished. All of them. Because Victor, while you were so focused on your escape plan, you missed something crucial. What? This entire hotel was a setup. Agent Torres didn't just happen to use this location for our meeting. For the past month, every room in this building has been equipped with surveillance equipment. Every conversation, every phone call, every meeting you've had here has been recorded. Elena's face went white. How long? Since the day you first contacted your extraction team to plan this operation. We've been watching you plan your escape while we planned your capture. Victor looked around the room, finally understanding the scope of what they'd walked into. You used us. The same way you used 86 innocent people, I replied. The difference is, my deception was to serve justice. Yours was to serve greed. Agent Torres stepped forward, her confidence restored. Viktor Petrov and Elena Kozlov, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, fraud, and about 40 other federal charges. Your extraction team is in custody, your network is compromised, and your international contacts are being arrested as we speak. As the real federal agents entered the room to make the final arrests, Victor looked at me one last time. This isn't over, Helena. Yes, I said quietly. It is. 6 months later, I stood outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, watching as Viktor Petrov was led away in shackles after receiving a sentence of 45 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Elena had received 30 years after cooperating with authorities, her testimony helping to expose the international network that had operated across 3 continents. How does it feel? Agent Torres asked, joining me on the courthouse steps. Surreal, I admitted. 6 months ago, I thought my biggest problem was a cheating husband. I never imagined I'd help bring down an international criminal empire. The trial had been extensive, with 86 victims testifying about how Victor and Elena's network had systematically destroyed their lives. The missing women we'd rescued from the New Jersey safe house had been instrumental in exposing the full scope of the operation. Megan walked up to us, looking healthier than she had in months. The therapy sessions had helped both of us process the psychological manipulation we'd endured. Helena, I wanted to thank you again. If you hadn't figured out what was really happening, we all would have been their next victims, I finished. How are you doing with the new job? Good. Really good. Turns out surviving a federal investigation makes you pretty attractive to consulting firms that need people who can spot financial irregularities. She smiled genuinely for the first time since I'd known her. What about you? Any regrets about turning down the witness protection offer? I shook my head. I spent 7 years living a lie with Victor. I'm not interested in living another lie, even one designed to protect me. Agent Torres handed me a thick envelope. The recovered assets. After legal fees and restitution to other victims, this is your portion. It's considerably more than what they stole from you originally. I opened the envelope and looked at the FOIR. Check. More money than I'd ever seen at once, recovered from accounts across 12 countries. What about the other victims? Everyone's getting their money back, plus damages. The international asset forfeiture was the largest in FBI history. Victor and Elena's organization had been sitting on over $500 million in stolen assets. And the corrupt law enforcement officials? 17 arrests across 4 agencies. Sarah Kim got 15 years. Jennifer Chen got 12. The investigation led to a complete overhaul of interagency communication protocols. Torres paused. Helena, you saved more than just yourself. Your willingness to work with us exposed corruption that could have gone undetected for years. As we walked away from the courthouse, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. Trusting, naive, devastated by what I thought was simple adultery. That woman felt like a stranger. Now? Agent Torres, I said. When you first approached me about helping with the investigation, did you know it would get this big? Honestly, no. We thought we were looking at a small corruption ring, maybe 5 or 6 people. We never imagined the scope of what Victor and Elena had built. And you trusted me to handle it? She smiled. Helena, you figured out their entire operation before we did. Your marketing background, your ability to spot inconsistent narratives, you were exactly what we needed. Plus, you had something we couldn't provide. What's that? Personal motivation. You weren't just building a case against criminals. You were fighting for your life, your identity, your future. That kind of motivation is irreplaceable. My phone buzzed with a text from my new therapist, Dr. Patricia Williams. No relation to the fake Detective Williams. Helena, congratulations on today's verdict. See you Thursday for our session. The therapy had been Agent Torres's suggestion, and it had been invaluable in helping me process not just the betrayal, but the complex emotions of having lived undercover for months. The line between victim and federal operative had sometimes blurred in ways that left me questioning my own identity. What's next for you? Torres asked as we reached my car. I'm starting my own consulting firm, financial fraud detection for small businesses. Turns out there's a big market for people who can spot the kind of sophisticated scams Victor and Elena were running. And personally, I looked back at the courthouse, where justice had finally been served. Personally, I'm learning to trust my instincts again, to believe that I'm smart enough, strong enough to protect myself and others. Any interest in doing more work with the Bureau? We could use someone with your skills. I considered it. The past 6 months had shown me capabilities I never knew I had. But they'd also shown me the cost of living in a world of deception, even when that deception served justice. Ask me again in a year, I said. Right now, I need some time to just be Helena Morrison, the real one this time. As I drove home to my new apartment in Brooklyn, smaller than the Westchester house Victor and I had shared, but entirely mine, I reflected on how completely my life had changed. The woman who'd been abandoned at the airport 6 months ago had been broken, betrayed, financially devastated. The woman driving home from court today was none of those things. She was a survivor. A federal witness. A hero. And for the first time in years, she was exactly who she was supposed to be. 1 year later, I stood in the departure lounge at JFK Airport, but this time everything was different. I was alone by choice, not abandonment. My carry-on contained contracts for my new consulting firm, not wedding dresses for fake anniversaries. And the man approaching me wasn't a criminal in disguise. It was Agent Torres, now a close friend. "Barcelona?" she asked, noticing my boarding pass. "Finally," I smiled. I figured it was time to take that trip. On my own terms this time. "Any nerves about traveling alone?" I considered the question. A year ago, the thought of traveling anywhere alone would have terrified me. Now, it felt like freedom. None. I spent too many years being afraid of my own shadow, trusting other people's narratives about who I was supposed to be. Now I trust myself. Torres handed me a small wrapped package. "A going-away gift. Don't open it until you're on the plane." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to. Helena, working with you changed how I approach investigations. You proved that sometimes the best agents aren't the ones with badges, they're the ones with the courage to see truth clearly and act on it." My phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "Saw the news about your new client contracts. So proud of you. Dinner when you get back from Spain?" Over. The past year, Megan and I had developed an unlikely friendship. We'd been through something together that few people could understand. The complete dissolution of reality, followed by the hard work of rebuilding authentic lives. "Mrs. Morrison?" A voice behind me made me turn. It was a young woman, maybe 25, with the same defeated expression I'd worn a year ago. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I recognized you from the news coverage. I think my husband might be doing what yours did." I sat down with her, seeing myself in her frightened eyes. "Tell me what's happening." For the next 20 minutes, I listened to a story that was heartbreakingly familiar. Financial irregularities, mysterious phone calls, a charming husband who always had explanations that almost made sense. "What should I do?" she asked. I handed her one of my business cards. "First, you trust your instincts. They brought you to me, didn't they? Second, you document everything. And third, you remember that whatever's happening, it's not your fault. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm just being paranoid? Then you'll have gathered some unnecessary documentation. But if you're right, and I suspect you are, you'll have potentially saved not just yourself, but future victims." As my boarding group was called, the young woman thanked me and walked away with more confidence in her step than she'd had when she approached. On the plane, I opened Torres's gift. It was a small leather journal with an inscription. "For documenting. Your real adventures this time. Rebecca." As we taxied for takeoff, I opened the journal and wrote my first entry. "Today, I'm flying to Barcelona. Not for a fake anniversary with a criminal husband, but because I want to see the Sagrada Familia with my own eyes, make my own memories, write my own story." A year ago, I was Helena Morrison, victim of an elaborate con. Today, I'm Helena Morrison, federal witness, successful entrepreneur, and survivor. But most importantly, I'm Helena Morrison, author of her own life. The woman who was abandoned at this airport 12 months ago was broken and lost. The woman flying out today knows exactly who she is and where she's going. Destination, Barcelona. But really, destination, anywhere I choose to go. As the plane climbed above the clouds, I looked out the window at the world spreading below me. Vast, full of possibilities, and completely mine to explore. For the first time in my adult life, I was exactly where I was supposed to be, free to be myself, whoever that turned out to be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.